Welcome to the stream, Auren. How you doing?
What's going
I'm doing
on?
great. Happy to be here. Very excited.
Great to finally have you on.
Yeah.
Probably should have done this a long time ago.
We had a brief phone call, I think a couple of years ago. Good to reconnect. What's the latest in your world?
Well, things are great. We've got a couple different things. We run like a weird holding company where we own a bunch of data companies, start different data companies.
Yep.
And then we're also at Flex Capital where we do a lot of seed stage investing. We did 20 deals last quarter.
Wow.
Our goal is to do about 100 per year.
That's amazing. Yeah, we were kind of
the
struggling to
volume
find
is-
what your title should be, so we just put founder and investor because you wear a lot of hats.
Yeah, that's good. I think you got like Sam Lesson on today. I'm like an aspiring Sam Lesson. So.
Okay.
That's great. We
Yeah,
all
how are you on the
aspire-
slopes? Are you a good skier?
No, I'm not aspiring.
Well,
Sam Lesson
then-
on the slopes.
then
I'm
you're
not,
gonna fall
I'm not
behind.
at that stage. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm only
Skiing.
aspiring on certain things. He's
Okay,
got
okay.
like 20 other dimensions I'll never catch up
He
to.
plays a lot of tennis. He yaps a lot, but yeah.
Yeah.
Jordan's
He runs like 3-minute miles. Yeah. So,
3 minutes.
yeah.
Okay, I haven't talked about running.
on the data side
Yeah.
of your business. How was that an AI bet that you made a long time ago? Is it? Did you get lucky? Did you have incredible foresight? Or a bit
I
of
think
both?
I got on. I think I had the wrong bet, and so I think on the data business, I think we had believed that that these companies that sell data, like data as the ingredient, not just like analysis on top of it, data the ingredient. We thought that these companies would become like way more valuable because we thought the number of buyers of data would go up significantly. So if you think like, people, this is 10 years ago, people made, there are maybe 50 hedge funds that buy data today significantly. There's 11,000 hedge funds. The market's going to go from 50 to 500. I think the market went from 50 to like 58 over the last 10 years. So it really didn't go up. Retailers, there were maybe 20 retailers that bought a lot of data 10
How
years
many
ago.
out of your if you this will be tough to remember specifics, but a lot of like seed stage companies will be like, oh, well, we're going to generate this data and like we're going to sell it eventually and it's going to be valuable. And it's like, oh, and then you kind of press them on it. And it's like, well, like hedge funds will buy it. And then it's like, okay, like, are you confident that those 58 hedge funds are have you seen
hedge
any
funds
of your
they're a terrible market. It's a very small market. And they're really, most of them are even like the biggest hedge funds in the world, like Bridgewater, like the amount of data they buy is minuscule compared to their AUM. It's basically zero.
Yeah.
And
is that just because
they
they're
spend more on like lunch than data.
Are they getting data from other sources,
more
like
on
more
lunch.
public sources? Are they scraping the internet, or are they just not using data-driven algorithms?
I mean, they have some data. They have data that you could put in an Excel file and stuff like that. And these are not like, these are smart people who are thinking about quote unquote data. But when you actually think of like a data business that's selling data, proprietary data, different types of data, and usually data that's like larger than you could like put in an Excel file. Most funds are not doing it. They're really, if you think of like real estate, so when we were starting, like the number of real estate investors that were using data was 0, and today it's Blackstone. It's like 1. It's going from 0 to 1. Real estate is a pretty big asset class. Now they're using some data, so people are using still some data, but really like we're talking about like real alternative data, really have a very sophisticated system to be able to ingest it and use it. It's very, very, very small.
Is that driven by the fact that maybe it's almost like, we've been thinking a lot about Google I/O and VO3 and Google's advantage in video generation, particularly because they own YouTube. And YouTube feels like an incredibly valuable data source.
Correct. I agree
And it's
with that,
almost, but the whole like data is the new oil. It's almost like, no, data is like a Rembrandt painting that there's only one of. And so Google doesn't want to sell that data. Like Google wants to keep that, right? And so yes, the data market would be bigger if all of these assets actually transacted and were fungible like oil, but they're not. They're super proprietary, and the
now,
companies
if you
that
have
low.
a brand, your data is more valuable.
Sure.
So if you've got something like Reddit, and everyone knows Reddit, they understand what people are talking about on Reddit, and they say, okay, we're having all these like interesting conversations. They sell that to Google for $60 million or something to train their LLMs. But if you had just like lots of people having interesting conversations, but you weren't called Reddit, My guess is instead of 60 million, you might get 10 million or 5 million or something. Like the brand is actually the 10x thing of why people want to buy it as well.
Yeah. What about just creating data for the purposes of artificial intelligence, not pulling data from other sources and trying to go find a round peg in a square hole with selling into a hedge fund? More like there is demand for robotics data right now, and we are going to go get a bunch of robots and generate a bunch of data.
I like that. Yeah. Okay. I mean, obviously like Scale AI is a great company, right? So they're doing that. They're actually going and building those types of data. We're investing in a company doing what you're saying with the robots.
Sure.
I think those types of things are good, but it's not always just for the AI. Like there's other types of buyers, because if you just are selling to like AI core model companies, you're talking maximum of a dozen buyers. That's not a great market.
And you went from 58 to 12.
Yeah, exactly. So do you just want to sell to OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, and Facebook, like, and maybe a couple of others? Like, I don't know, that doesn't seem like a great business long term either.
Yeah, and if the first deal that you do is 100 million, what's the deal size on the next one?
Correct.
Are you going to create $100 million worth more data that you can sell to them? Is it even that valuable? Anyways, the wanted to have you on specifically to talk about a post that you had yesterday that went pretty viral. You said that any VC that makes you pay for their lawyers is not founder friendly. Founders barely affording rent should not be footing legal bills for VCs with private jets, and yet this is standard. You kind of extrapolate on this, but you're writing, 20 checks a quarter, maybe more. I'm sure that almost every single one of the companies you back ends up, having to pay some VC's lawyer bill, maybe in the next round. But what I would love for you to kind of break down the post and what inspired
so for those people who don't know, in a standard in a term sheet, somewhere in the term sheet, usually it says the company must pay up to X dollars of the venture capitalist legal fees. And that X can be negotiated, and it can be as low as 10 grand. And I've seen it as high as 300 grand for more complicated deals and stuff like that. And it's there. And it seems odd for a whole bunch of reasons. First, it's like there may be many different investors, but you're only paying the lead investors types of things. Second is that why are they actually having the company pay? It's like a little bit of a backdoor way to get your fees paid. And then there's like a more complicated argument as well, which is I don't think this is LP friendly. A lot of VCs will say this is LP friendly, because now I don't have to like.
Yeah, wouldn't the person paying presume you can pass it? I mean that the VC could pass the fees on to their LPs. So
correct. So they could pass it on to their LPs, and this is a backdoor way of doing that without actually telling the LPs that you passed it on to the LPs.
By taxing the company.
It's taxing the company, but it's even the LP isn't aware of it. Whereas if you actually normally if you use Tegas or something and you pass that on to your LP sees the bill and they're like, why are you spending 50 grand on Tegas? Like you should be spending less, and they can have a conversation. Or if you're having air travel, they can understand that as well.
Wait. There's a whole bunch of reasons. Can you give me more clarity around like the idea of passing fees on?
So like the real fees. So VCs have like 2 and 20, right? But then there's certain fees that you can pass back that it gets it closer to even 3. You could get it up to like 2.5, 3, 4%, and that could even be like when a VC pays for lunch with a founder. You can pass that on, correct?
Interesting.
Yeah, and every VC has a different model.
Different structure.
So like when we go to
I always
lunch
thought it
with
would be
founder,
like there's 2% fees, and then you got to do whatever you want with that. If you need a private jet, like that's coming out of the 2%. If you need to pay salaries, if you need to pay for Tegas, if you need to buy lunch, like it's all coming out of the 2%. But you're saying it can be passed on.
The true loaded fees can be much higher than 2%.
Interesting.
Yeah, like at Flex Capital, we try to almost do everything in the 2%. So if we go to lunch we take it out of our own management fee, which means means we get less compensation because that,
of course,
most VCs want to protect that 2%. That goes directly to them, right? So we get less compensation, but we think it's more LP friendly. And then there might be certain things like your fund audit might be done to so you have to decide, okay, what's actually done to the fund versus what's done to the management company. So we are more to the management company. Every VC will do it different on how they do it, but some can be like, but at least, regardless, at least generally when they're passing fees, at least the LPs do see it.
Yeah.
And then they can have a conversation like, hey, why are you spending all this money with lunches to me? Why am I paying for your lunch to go to Spago or something? So whereas with the legal fees, they don't know.
What about
the LP has no way of accounting that money.
What about like general pressure to bring down the cost of startup legal fees at the Series A level? Justin Kahn was working on a project with Atrium to try and automate the Series A
before you can even get there. There's
Harvey's
like I think Ahmad had a good response to your post from Mercury saying that like he just basically tells the lawyers we're going to cap it at this and you agree up front, and then the lawyers are super motivated. But that's still.
Ahmad's amazing, and that's definitely step one. Like you got to negotiate that cap. Maybe you can't negotiate all the way down to zero, which is what I would like to see happen more. But you've got to negotiate it. My guess is also it also depends on how, the higher the cap, the longer it will be to close your round. So as most people know, you get a term sheet.
Shouldn't it be the other way around?
No, the higher, if it's a high cap, the lawyers are just going to be like, this is going to take 6 weeks.
Because it should be
I mean,
surge pricing. I'll pay you $300K to close it this weekend, or $50K, and you can take a month.
That's what I can basically tell you, like, here's how you close your round. It's going to be it's 15 days. Plus 1 day for every $2,000 that's in that cap. I can guarantee you that will be exactly what it is for every single round that is in there.
So backwards.
Shouldn't one defense of startups eating the cost is that, if you have an emerging manager with a $20 million fund and they're barely, paying themselves $1 in salary, and if they want to lead a round that ends up getting priced, it could get expensive. But your argument is still like, okay, well, LPs are still eating that cost.
Yeah, I mean, look, it can be negotiated, and maybe in some cases it could make sense that's in there. But why are you doing something so complicated? I mean, YC created the safe. The safe doesn't have any legal costs, right? Really, you can actually use a pretty boilerplate thing. Most of these terms you should be negotiating in the term sheet anyway. So going from term sheet to close, which is where all the legal costs come in. From term sheet to close, like, why is that expensive anyway? It's because probably you're not managing the lawyers. The lawyers have no incentive to keep the costs low because they know what the cap is. If the cap says 50K, I guarantee you're getting a bill for no less than 49K. Like in the history of the world, I doubt it has almost ever come in less than 49K for a cap of 50K. Like, how do they automatically always hit the cap?
It's perfect.
They're filling the space.
They're built different. The other thing as an LP, what you don't want to pay the fees and not get the ownership is the other thing, right? It's like if you're just getting past the costs and you're like eating that, but you're not getting like the incremental kind of dollars deployed into the company or like the incremental ownership. I mean, I guess like where I'd want to go with this is what do you have conviction or any excitement around tools that can be like AI tools specifically that can be introduced into the process, like basically that term sheet to close period to just make that more efficient, where we could say, okay.
In most cases, but first of all, like we just said, we're just involved in a company that did term sheet to close in 6 days. Like, it's not that hard, especially in the early stages of a company. Like, how much diligence do you need to do? You need to, and look, the company did a good job. They got all their stuff in a data room. They did all the things that they were supposed to do. Then as the venture capitalist, okay, well, you've got to somehow read through it. Maybe you can use AI to read through some of it. You got to go check it. You have to make sure that the bank account is legit and all these other types of things that isn't fraudulent. But it shouldn't take that much time. The main reason it takes a really long time is just the back and forth. You put a red line in, I send it to you, then you don't have time to look at it that day. It takes you 3 days, then you send it to me. It's like, if we actually all got in a room, that's what they did. So they got all in a room on day 6.
That's
and
cool.
They basically put like a 4-hour block. And they said, we're going to just go through every single issue right here. And they were able to iterate on it just live. And then you would put it on mute. You would talk to your lawyer to go back. It just got done. It's so much easier. And obviously, even M&A agreements, like you should be able to get those done so much faster. And actually, those often do get done faster.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you can do an entire M&A from term sheet to close faster than you can do a VC financing. Many M&As go faster than VC because everyone's just motivated to really work on it and put in the time to make it happen.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for stopping by.
Come back on again soon. Sorry, we only had 15 minutes.
I love it. Invite me anytime.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah, we'll make it happen.
Yeah.
Great hanging.
Talk to you soon.
Cheers.